All right, at this point, I'm just going to go through and kind of fix all the geometry, all the ingons that I have, and kind of shape this out a little bit more so it looks a little bit nicer. And I may, go in, I may change up some geometry a little bit. I'm just going to do a time lapse of this because I'm probably not going to be talking much. But before I do a time lapse, mostly what I'm going to be using is nothing different from what I've really been using: the multi-cut tool, the grab tool, or grab sculpt tool. One thing I will be doing is using mesh cleanup. So mesh cleanup. And you can either select cleanup matching polygons or select matching polygons. So I like to do a cleanup matching polygons just to kind of, if I do have any errors, it will fix it for me. In that case, it triangulated the mesh for me, which I do not want. And the reason it triangulated it is because one of the fixed by tessellation was four-sided faces. So I want four-sided faces, so I'm going to uncheck that one. And hit apply, and it shouldn't really do much at that point. If I do hit apply, it will fix my ingons, and in some cases I don't want to get those fixed. So what you may see me do, let me back up there for a second, is instead of having it clean up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose select matching polygons. And that way it will just select them rather than attempt to clean it up on its own. So what I will do is I'll do clean up, and then that will select the polygons with issues. So, in that case, I'm not sure what that issue is, but I can, figure it out. I have some issues there. So what I'll do here is I'll use that select matching polygons, and I'll assign a new material, and usually I'll just make this new material a surface shader, and delete my history here. And I'll just make that red so I can see it. So periodically, as I'm working, I'm going to be doing that and then just assigning that material so I can find my problem areas. So, and then whenever I fix them, in the case of I have these ingons here that I need to fix. So whenever I fix them, like in the case of this one here, it's going to be a pretty easy fix. I can just grab that and then do something like that. And then when I'm done, I can just reassign my Lambert. And then I can work a little bit more, and then I can go to mesh cleanup again. And again, I'm choosing select matching polygons. Hit clean up, and then just right click and reassign that surface shader. So then I have my problem areas that I need to work on, that I need to fix. So I'm probably going to spend the first part of this video, this time lapse, doing cleanup work, and then I will be, if anything, I'll be doing cleanup work, and I'll be adding more geometry. So I may add some geometry in the arms a little bit, maybe in the legs, and then I'll just be doing some shaping. So yeah, and the time lapse, by the way, is going to be sped up for probably 400%. So if I spend, if this video is 30 minutes long, then I basically spent 2 hours working on this. So it's something that you need to spend some time on. Just because I'm doing a time lapse doesn't mean it's something you should neglect. It's definitely something that's important to do, but it's a moment where you're just kind of listening to music and zoning out a little bit and just kind of working on your model rather than it's not something that I can explain every little bit of, basically. But yeah, that's it. I'm going to be using multi-cut, grab, mesh cleanup, and for the most part, that's what I'm going to be doing. Alright, so I'm pretty sure that I'm done at this point with, fixing all the n-gons, fixing all the triangles. Yeah, so at this point I just want to join both halves together, which is fairly easy. It's like a 3-step thing basically. So basically what I'm going to do is just select both halves and do a mesh combine. And it's really easy if I have a space like this where the two halves are separated, because all I will have to do is like double click that edge and then double click that edge, and then with the exception I need to make sure that I deselect the edges in the mouth, and I haven't done the mouth bag yet. I will probably want to do that at some point, and I'll show you guys how to do that as well. But I just want to deselect those polygons. And then I can use my scale tool to scale in. And I basically want to, I don't want to go all the way to the other end, because that will like do a negative scale thing. So I just want to keep scaling in until that scale tool stops scaling. And that basically means that those polygons, or those edges now, are like right on top of each other. So I'll do a once over just in my perspective view to make sure that I do have that right the way I want it. Check it smooth as well. And maybe even check the inside of this area, because that can get a little tight sometimes. So once I have that, I can go to basically what I want to do is hold down Control and right click and go to two vertices. And then I can go to mesh, that's going to be edit mesh, merge, and just make sure I have a really low threshold, and that will basically only merge the vertices that are right on top of each other. So all of these should be right on top of each other. So, and then I'll hit apply. And then I can check it visually to make sure that everything is where it should be. I don't have any bad geometry anywhere. You should see, if you didn't quite merge something up, you should see a little bit of a seam. Now at this point, if I want to fix some areas, I can still do that. So like I have this area in the neck here that looks kind of weird. So if I want to fix that without having to delete everything and then re-merge it together, I can, a lot of my tools, if I go to my grab tool here, a lot of my tools have a mirror function, so I can turn on world, I think that's going to be world X, yeah, so, and then I can smooth that out a little bit and have that mirrored. So if you do want to edit it after you do this, you can use your mirror function. And if you have your character like perfectly on the grid, I would recommend using the world and not the object, because object, if your character is not perfectly on the grid, the object isn't going to work correctly sometimes. So yeah, I like to use the world. That way I know it's going to be, because basically if I have one little vertice that's not in the same position and I use that object X, it's not going to work correctly, and then I'm going to have to like delete everything or delete half of it and then duplicate it over again. So so yeah, that is how you join the two sides together. I'm probably going to do this again at some point. I think in my next video I might actually create the mouth bag area, just because I think that's, you know, if you do want to animate your character and you want to have them open their mouths at any point and not just see the back of their head, you need that sort of mouth bag area in there. So that's probably what I'm going to do in the next video. So what I just did, where I joined the two halves together, I'm probably going to delete that and do that again. And I generally do that multiple times when I'm working on a character. I'll join them together and kind of have a look at it, and then I see things that I want to change, and then I'll change them, and then just to be sure that it's completely symmetrical at this point, before I bring it into Mudbox or something like that, I will delete half of it and re-duplicate it over and merge it back together. So that's something that I definitely do multiple times before I have something that I'm happy with. But for the most part, that is the body. So in the next video, we'll go into like doing the mouth bag, and then we'll get into like different ways to make clothing.